Hello everybody and welcome into the latest live stream. Let's hope that everybody can see and hear me okay. So let me check with the chat room and let's see how are we doing in there. Hello chat. Looks like we're already starting off with a real good turnout here. 164 people joining us here in chat. And we got the A-OK. Wonderful, thank you. Sorry for the delay in the live stream. For those of you that are just catching up, there was a DMCA falsely levied against my channel, which rendered that video unavailable and disabled my ability to do a live stream, which is very unfortunate because I was planning to go live from Las Vegas last week. And despite going through all the hassle to make that happen, you can imagine what my reaction was when I found out that my live stream capability was suspended as a result of this fraudulent DMCA takedown notice, and that nobody at YouTube had any control over it, or anybody you can talk to at YouTube are all gatekeepers that prevent you from talking to the people responsible and refuse to give their name or phone number or email address to those responsible. So this is the second time this has happened to me since April. Every DMCA charge that was levied against my channel has been dismissed and has been fraudulent, and YouTube has collaborated and partnered in anti-competitive business practices and violated several U.S. laws in the way that they're implementing their enforcement of the DMCA. That you simply can't take one U.S. law and step on a bunch of other U.S. laws and say, well, we're following the law. They're not following, YouTube is not following the law. So if, let's just put it this way, I'm in talks with a copyright attorney. We're speaking about class action for every YouTube person, creator that's been affected by this. And for now, I'm still really upset about it. It's a gross injustice that YouTube is voluntarily and knowingly participating in. And we will see where it goes. Right now I'm still pretty fired up about it, but as I calm down, and if YouTube ceases this anti-competitive business practice, then I won't have much to be angry about. So we'll see what YouTube does on their own, and failing that, we'll have our day in court. So with that, today I'm going to show you, there's a lot of news today. And the first and foremost is the Fall Creators Update. I've been telling you for a long time this is coming. About every fall and every spring, Microsoft intends to come out with a new version of Windows 10. It's a whole new version. So the first version was like 1603, and then the next version was like, I might have my numbers, 1609 and then 1709. Actually, 1609 wasn't the first version. I think that was the second. And then it became 1703, and now it's 1709. And those numbers are just the year and the month. That's all that is, right? The year first and then the month. So there's no rocket science to how they're coming up with these build numbers. So as of today, you can download and install the Fall Creators Update. And as you can see right over here, I've got the Encase M1. If you recall, we built that live a few weeks ago. And it's got the version of Windows 10 that was the latest until today, and I thought we'd go through the process of upgrading it live here on YouTube and see what this entails and what you can expect if you choose to force the upgrade. The upgrade will happen on its own, whether you like it or not, but if you're anxious to get it and you want to start playing with it, here's how you can force it. Now, still having some issues with random blue screens on the streaming PC. I haven't had time with everything going on. And dealing with the DMCA thing took away, 20, 30 hours of my time in letter writing and talking to attorneys, and dealing with the accuser, and just really sucked all of my time away from me from doing anything productive or creating anything on YouTube, and prevented me from, it hindered me from being able to do my job, which is both helping my customers and making these YouTube videos, which is just a whole lot of financial loss there. But regardless of that, I haven't had time, as I mentioned, to figure this blue screen out. So we may suffer some blue screens, and if that happens, the stream will go dead, and I have to restart the stream after I reboot, and then you'll have to reconnect to the stream. After the stream is over, it'll all be available online. So if you're watching this without a chat room next to you, then you're watching the recorded version. I'm going to talk some more while we're waiting for Windows 10 to download, because that's going to take a while. So let's get started with that, and let's see, first of all, if we can switch over to the Ncase M1. Oh boy, hold on a minute. Now you should still be able to hear me now. And let me grab my keyboard and mouse here and plug it into the Ncase. So let's get that done right now, so I can use my keyboard and mouse. I was going to bring out a second keyboard and mouse, and then I find I always use the one in front of me, and it's always the wrong one. So I think it's easier to just have one keyboard and mouse. Okay, so now we should be able to, oh, wait a minute. I made a little, I gotta do one other thing here. Before I do this, I have to switch over to my other feed so I don't have the little bit of lag. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna open the, well, first of all, let's just do this. We're going to go to the Start button, and we're going to go to the gear icon, and we're going to go to Updates and Security. Now, it's going to check for updates, and it's going to tell us nothing's available. And the reason it's doing that is it's going to overwhelm Microsoft servers. If everybody just goes and grabs the update at once, it's going to just overload the servers. So you have to go and grab the update manually. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to open up, let's just use Edge. And we're going to go to Microsoft.com as soon as this comes up here, which is taking a strangely a long amount of time. Here we go. We're going to go to Microsoft. Wow, my screen is really, really small. All right, you're going to have to forgive any typos because I can barely see my screen. Microsoft.com / I thought I was ready for this. Hold on a minute. I've got the link. Oh, here it is. Here's the link. All right, sorry. Microsoft.com / and of course I'm English, so I want ENUS software -download / Windows 10. That should take us there. And that link is in the video notes below this video, by the way. And you'll see we can download Windows 10. We can update it, or we can download it to make new bootable media. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Update Now. And then I'm going to hit Run on this dialog box down here. And then we're going to click Yes. And then we just have to be patient here. And it starts. Update to the latest version of Windows 10. Update now. Everything checks out. Our PC will accept it. So we're going to click there. And now we're just going to go ahead and let that run. We're going to close that window behind it so we can focus on what's happening here. And while this is happening, let me see if I can make a little change here to my configuration so that you can see me again and see the screen at the same time. Because this is going to take a little while. This is a pretty big download. We're looking at 4.5 gigabytes, which is a little bit bigger than the previous one, which was 4.2. This is 4.5. And my mouse isn't working. What's going on, mouse? Let me see. Plugging that back in again. There's my mouse. Okay. And let's go to Let's see, I'm going to move this up. And tell you what, guys, actually, there I am. And let's just put me, I don't know, where do you think I should go? Over here? Over here? Or should I do it the other way around? Well, I think that'll be good. All right, so we're going to wait for this to download. It's already about a quarter of the way there. And I want to talk to you some more about things that are going on in the news. One, you may have heard about the news of WPA2 security on Wi-Fi being cracked. Bit of irony there, since I had just recently had Jason Hintersteiner on from Ingenious to talk about how secure WPA2 is. But this just goes to show that over time, hardware gets cracked, and what was once a secure technology then suddenly becomes not so secure. I mean, this is what has happened throughout history with WEP and other forms of drive encryption, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. To me, when you've been in the business as long as I have, there's nothing shocking about this. It's just more of the same. And it's very frustrating when you're a computer technician and you're talking to people that have old hardware and they refuse to upgrade it because they think, you know, well, Windows XP was the best OS Microsoft ever came out with, so I'm not upgrading it regardless of the fact there's no support. And they think they know about viruses and they don't understand what exploits are. A lot of people think the only way you can get a virus is by clicking on an executable, but that's simply not true. You can get a virus from looking at a web page. You can get a virus just from plugging your computer into the internet if it doesn't have the proper patches applied. So this has all happened before. You know, if you look up the blaster worm, nobody clicked on anything to get the blaster worm. You guys are going to need to go back and do your research and your history on this, but I'm not going to talk till I'm blue in the face about people who insist that they're immune and they think they're smarter than the virus writers, because they will eventually become victims of identity theft. So I'm just going to let that play out. I'm just not going to argue with those people. When you see comments about people saying stuff like that throughout the internet, they have too much information and not enough education. And they are unable to properly decipher the information accurately, and then they spew that out onto the internet as completely false. And then they're saying, well, nothing's happened to me, so therefore I'm right. But what they're leaving the word out is yet. Nothing has happened to me yet. Every day, over 100,000 viruses are released to the internet. Every single day. And so when you use an unsupported operating system, you're increasing your risk many, many times fold day after day after day. And it doesn't mean you have to click on anything. So I'm going to just let that lie there, and everybody's responsible for the decisions they make. I'm not accountable to your decisions. It doesn't inconvenience me what you want to do. You can run Windows 98 for all I care. I really don't care. But I just want the rest of you to be aware that much of the information on the internet is either designed to scare you or to mislead you. And that would be an example of misleading you. The WPA2 scare is really an example to scare you, because if you're a Windows user and you have automatic updates left alone, as you should, you already received a patch for the WPA2 exploit earlier this month before the announcement was made. And that's the way announcements like this are supposed to happen. They're supposed to be delayed until the manufacturers have time to address it, and then you can go public with it. So if you're a Windows user and you've disabled automatic updates, I think it was a very unwise and foolish thing for you to do, because now your WPA2 is hackable. And this goes all the way back to every virus and every exploit. By not getting the patches, you're then making yourself vulnerable to what the patch fixes. I think it's extraordinarily foolish. But again, your decision, it's your computer, it's your life, and it's your identity. So it has no impact on me whatsoever. I just hate to see people have self-inflicted, avoidable situations that are very difficult and expensive to remedy, especially when we're talking about correcting identity theft. I take this stuff very, very seriously, and when it's happened to somebody, especially when it happens to you, the levity of what I'm saying, the gravity of what I'm saying, there's no levity to it. The gravity of what I'm saying really sinks home when you understand the actual depth of what happened to you and why it happened and how you could have avoided it. Some people just need to learn lessons on their own, so we're just going to leave that be. People that are running older Android phones are still going to be susceptible to the WPA2 crack. You know, if they're running an obsolete phone, you know, is there going to be a patch? I don't know. I don't know. This is what happens when you hold on to older technology. You got a computer or a cell phone that's running an obsolete operating system. You're just opening yourself wide open to steal my identity, have all of my personal information. You have no privacy. You can assume zero privacy. You're going to do banking on that phone. You're going to look at anything personal on that phone. You're going to do anything financial on that phone, pay any bills. I wish you luck. I wish you luck. So the bottom line here is there's a lot of scaring going on with regards to the WPA2. As I mentioned, all the supported operating systems, Apple, Windows, they've all patched. They've all been patched. So nothing to worry about. People running obsolete operating systems, you should have been worried anyway. You should be worried about the things you don't know. This is just the one you do. There's thousands you don't know about yet. When it comes to businesses, that's a different story. Some businesses are going to be targets of this WPA2 exploit, and they're the ones that are really going to be most affected by this, not so much your average consumer. Because of the aforementioned patches and because some business hardware has not yet been patched. Things like Cisco and some versions of Linux and things like that, specialty things. I anticipate patches will come out soon, but until then, they've got to really keep a careful eye on what's going on. Other things in the news going on is that well, this isn't really that big of a deal, but the Star Wars has officially announced the name of the Han Solo movie, which is it's called Solo, a Star Wars story, which I'm looking forward to that. I can't wait for that to come out. And, geez, there were a couple other items in the news. There's more about Equifax and that whole nonsense. And you know, we go back to security, and here you can do everything right, and yet potentially your first name, middle name, last name, social security number, birth date in every address you've lived at is now in the hands of hackers and will be for the rest of your life. I don't know how you fix that. Even though you may have done everything correctly to protect your identity, Equifax didn't. And it was kind of funny in a sad way that Equifax says, yeah, the guy that was supposed to patch the system didn't do it. So they have one guy, huge corporation, hundreds of millions of people's personal information, and it's all up to one guy to secure it. That is so preposterously amateurish. I don't believe it's true. I don't believe that, you know, Earl down in the IT basement forgot to patch it, and now 145 million Americans are without their, have their identity stolen. No, it sounds a little fishy, Equifax. I don't think that's, if that's how you treat security, what do? You lock your doors and then leave all your windows open? I don't understand. So there's nothing funny as far as all of 145 million Americans that now will be potentially have their identity potentially hacked at some point in their life now, despite they may have done nothing to give up their identity. Equifax did it. And then Equifax wanted to bill people for their monitoring service, and Equifax wanted to have people opt out of being able to sue them if you accepted the free monitoring service for a limited time. And then Equifax gets paid by the IRS, and Equifax gets paid by the victims to get their credit reports, and Equifax gets paid. So basically, the more Equifax screws up, the more money they make. It's a really interesting situation that the Equifax lobbyists have created in Congress to design the laws in such a way that they profit from any mistakes they make, and they profit from any mistakes they don't make. There doesn't seem to be any any punishment that anything Equifax could do based on how they lobbied lawmakers to pass these laws by paying money into their political campaigns to say, hey, we're going to help you get reelected, but you got to help us. And that's kind of how it works here in America. It's no longer about who's right or who's wrong. It's who's got the cash. And then morals and ethics are dictated by the golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. It's a completely disgusting system, and it's not probably going to change anytime soon. But let's see where we're at. We're at 73%. So we're getting there. We're getting there on this update. Yeah, it's extraordinarily frustrating to me when there's some talk of passwords in the chat, when people don't take their passwords seriously. Say, oh, I need a password. You just use the word password. If you Google most common passwords of 2017, or just most common passwords 2017, it's an enlightening list that appears. And at least two of them are actual gibberish that are basically created by hackers. And that shows you how many accounts have been hacked and taken over by hackers, that this gibberish password is obviously the one password the hackers use when they change accounts they've taken over. The hacking group uses one password, so anybody in the group doesn't need to look up hundreds of thousands of different potential passwords. They all use the same one. And that appears twice in the 25 most common passwords used in 2017. Because you look at it and a lot of it's just, QWERTY, going right across the top of the keyboard, or it's password 123 or 123456, things like that. And then you see this one that's gibberish and you're trying to say, well, what is that supposed to mean and why is it so common? Well, that's why it's so common. The hacking groups actually created a gibberish password, but actually meets all of the good password requirements, and then they used it on every account they stole. So it's very eye-opening, very enlightening. One of my viewers saw me moving the monitor back and forth when I was doing a live build or something, and a box arrived at my door yesterday, and it's a 23-inch LCD LG monitor. And I don't know if he wants me to give him credit for it, if he wants to remain anonymous. But when I hear back from him and when I show the monitor, I'm not using it right now, certainly give him credit for that if he wants it. And I thank the viewers for helping make the channel better for other viewers. It certainly is going to make it a little easier on me to not have to disconnect the monitor. And I've got two monitors now, and that was really nice. Very, very generous of somebody to do that. Somebody wants to know what new things are in this update. There are at least 750 articles online detailing what's in this update, so I'm not going to repeat what's already been repeated countless times. If you go to Google, or you go to any computer website like PCWorld.com, MaximumPC.com, any computer news website will detail all of the differences in the update. So I won't get into that here. Of course, if you guys want to discuss it in the chat, you want to talk to each other, go right ahead. But for the live feed, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. This is like I say, 4.5 gig update. It's a full install of Windows 10. They do this 2 times a year. They'll do one in the fall and one in the spring, and they intend to do this indefinitely. And if that changes, when it changes, I'll be sure and let you guys know. It's always good to have the latest and greatest Windows operating system. In this particular case, it's not a new operating system, but it's an update to an existing. So we try to think of it more like service packs. Microsoft has changed the language of, instead of calling this Service Pack 3, which is what it should be, they're calling it the Fall Creators Update. When you're dealing with a service pack, I recommend you update to it as quickly as possible for security reasons. When they introduce a brand new operating system that has no service pack, say it's Windows 11, I don't know, then I recommend you wait for about 6 months to a year for manufacturers of software and hardware to develop drivers and update their software to be compatible with it, and to let other people encounter the problems that eventually get fixed. Let other people be the pioneers. In this case, you're not really a pioneer because it's an established OS. And it's the same way about when I said with Intel versus the Ryzen and Threadripper CPUs. The Ryzen and Threadripper CPUs are brand new architecture. They've never been tested before. The Intel architecture is based on 8 generations of chips. And they're just minor tweaks from generation 1. We're now up to generation 8. Which takes me to my next news item, which is, of course, the Coffee Lake CPUs have been released. Coffee Lake is just a minor tweaking to the previous KB Lake, which was a minor tweaking to Skylake. Intel's kind of just doing these little tweaks. The good news is that you can now get a 6-core processor, a Core i7 processor with 6 cores, with 6 virtual cores, basically, which gives you 12 theoretical. Essentially, you've got 12 threads. It's basically having a 12-core CPU. It sells for around, the top of the line, what is it, like an 8700, 8800K? I can't remember the number. Pretty hard to find them right now. They just came out, so a lot of places are out of stock. And then, of course, these, even though they're socket 1151, they are not compatible with the Series 200 or Series 100 of Intel chipsets. When you're buying an Intel CPU, you'll see the motherboard will say it's a Z170 or a B250 or a Z270. That number, that 100 series, whatever 100, whatever numbers follow it, or the 200, that would work with KB Lake and Skylake, but not with Coffee Lake. Coffee Lake is a 300 series only workable CPU. And it's a shame that Intel did not change the socket, because up until now, I could safely say that when you want to pair a CPU and a motherboard together and you don't know if they're compatible, just look at the socket. If the motherboard says it has a socket 1151 and the CPU is a socket 1151, it's going to work. The main difference being that when the KB Lake CPUs came out, you wouldn't get any of the advantages that the KB Lake CPU introduced unless you have the 200 series. But it would still work on a 100 series. Why would you want to do that? I don't know, but there you have it. Now with the 300 series, not backwards compatible, yet the socket is the same. The good news about the socket being the same is, of course, the third-party cooler manufacturers no longer have to keep coming out with patchwork to make their coolers work on the different sockets like they had to do with AMD Ryzen. If you bought like a Hyper 212 or something, my understanding was they had an adapter kit that they would send you for free if you requested it for AMD Ryzen series chips. I could have my memory a little cloudy on this whole thing, but that's more or less the gist of it. And keeping the socket the same means the coolers are all going to be the same. Nothing has to be modified there. So it's kind of a pro and con thing, but it does make it a little bit more difficult for first-time builders in trying to determine which CPU goes with which motherboard. Before, like I said, it was pretty easy with regards to just pairing the socket. And AMD too. You pair the socket of the CPU with the socket on the motherboard, they fit, they work. Just the only caveat would be maybe they didn't work optimally. So so the Coffee Lake processors are out. It's only like one Core i5 and one Core i7 and one, maybe there's a Core i3, and then an overclockable version of each one, a K version. And of course the K version, even if you don't overclock it, is about 10% faster than the non-K version. So a lot of people don't understand why somebody might get the K version, the overclockable version of the CPU, with no intent to overclock it. And that's because right out of the box, it's 10% faster. Let's look at the chat. Let's see what we got going on. We got 449 people watching live right now. Say hello to Aaron Llewellyn and Jess Eade and Kenny Roberts, the cyclist, Spaceman Rob, Daniel Stone, John Senchak, Brett Kennedy. Hello, everybody. Catbird Feeder says hey. Dan the Man says hello. Bird203 says hey. Jeff Mitchell, Ben DeCure, Stephen Hazelbaker, Caleb Nestor, Anders Jorgensen, Matas, Jeff Jeffries, Rain Remigio, Andre Hernandez says hello. Raymond Rivera, Bow Hunter, Sean Rollins, Questionable Quad. Eoin has contributed £2, says, keep up the good work, Carrie. Thank you. I don't know how to pronounce your name. E-O-I-N? Eoin? Oin? Elliot Fleming says hello. Daryl Hilton says, well, I don't know what he says, but we're just going to say he says hello. TSM, Lasnik, Jeff, I think I said Jeff Jeffrey now. Titarian says hello. Gil Zephyr, Richard Danes, Michael W., Michael Kelly, hola. 82%, just killing time. Oh, E-O-I-N says it's pronounced Owen, it's Irish. I have never heard the word, I watch a lot of BBC, and I there's a lot of shows, the Irish shows like Mrs. Brown's Boys and such that I enjoy, and I have never heard of an Irish person named Owen before, and certainly never saw it spelled that way. So I have learned something new today. Thank you, Owen. I'm going to file that one away in my worldly knowledge, even though I've never really left the United States. Sláinte, Owen. See what I did there? I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Claire Clark says, hello, Ken W., Michael Kelly, Daniel Pintor, D. Cabral, John Zavinas, J.O. has contributed 20, I don't even know what that type of, what is that? That is Peruvian sol dollars. Which is $6.16 US dollars. Well, thank you, Joel. I don't know how to pronounce Yiyo. It's pronounced Yiyo? It's pronounced Yayo or Yiyo? Help me out. I'm a dumb American. You got to help me out with these names, folks. Thank you for the contribution. Oh, my admin is in William Leatherland, and William has been with the channel a very long time. He's out of the UK. Hello, William. It's always good to see you. We have a hello from Croatia. Tez from UK. Am I answering any questions today? You know, we've got some time to kill. We're sitting here at 82%. I don't know why it's stuck on 82%, but you know what? Let me check to make sure. Let's turn it off. And have you tried turning it off and on again? Turn it off and back on. It's not budging. Hold on, let me just make sure nothing is frozen, because it was moving at a good clip there, and suddenly now it's not budging. Yeah, it's at 83%, so I guess it went up 1%, right? It was at 82. I don't even know. Well, I'm just going to leave it, because I thought maybe it wasn't feeding the video feed. It just froze, but nope, it's working. I'm just impatient, and this is a very large update, and I'm sure a lot of people are trying to grab it right now. One of the disadvantages, of course, is that it When you want to be one of the first people, like getting a Coffee Lake CPU is extraordinarily difficult to get, and there's no sales. You know, you're paying full price. If you want Windows 10, the latest edition, you're going to have to wait longer for the download because everybody, the sheer number of people that want it, taxes the servers, and so they can't distribute the data as quickly because so many people are requesting it at the same time. So we do have some time to answer some questions. What is on your mind, folks? What can I answer for you? Carrie, if a computer gets ransomware, would it affect files from the read-only folder shares from a server? Depends on the ransomware. In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. That's why you always make backups, and then questions like that don't matter. As long as you have your backups, you just wipe out the ransomware virus and then restore your backups, and details like that are irrelevant. GPU usage on the taskbar. GPU usage, what do I care about GPUs? Is this a public update or an inside beta? This is a public update. I will not do betas on my channel. You've never seen me do betas. I'm not starting today. Do you know of a way to play older games on Windows 10 64-bit? The best way to play older games is to play it on older machines they were designed for. You can pick up old machines at Goodwill. People often give them away. Don't hook it into the internet. Just plug your game in and install your game and play your game. Old software, old computers. Keep them together. What is the size of the update? Well, if you're going to download the full ISO image, it's a little over 4.5 gigabytes. Because you will want to make a new installation USB, like whatever you have for your installation disk. Ideally, you have it on USB because your installation disk is no good anymore. So you'll go and want to download this and create a new installation USB, or overwrite the one you've got now with the current version. So your USB drive is going to have to be at least 8 gigs in size. A 4 gig USB drive won't cut it anymore. Actually, it didn't cut it before, because before it was 4.2 gigs. Now it's 4.5. So nothing's really changed as far as that goes. Where can I get the Fall Creators Update? There's a link in the notes below the video. Of course, everybody's going to get it. Everybody with Windows 10 is going to get it, whether you like it or not, when Microsoft, rations out the downloads to people around the world. So some people it could be today, and for some people it'll be 3 months from now. But if you want to force it, you would go to the link that's in the video notes of this video. Or you could simply use Google and say, where can I get Windows 10 Fall Creators Update? Most of the questions you guys ask in the chat, you could simply put into Google and you would get your answers, especially questions that are factual, not opinions. I'd really like to see people help themselves. I'd really like to see people use Google. Once you start using it, there's nothing you can't do. You can fix anything. You can fix your car. You can fix a leaky faucet. You can find Windows downloads. You can learn about specific ransomware. You can learn about making backups. You can learn about the only limit is your imagination. What about people that have a factory recovery key? Should they have 2 keys? I don't believe in factory recoveries. I never use factory recoveries. Like when you buy a Dell or an HP or something, or a laptop, the manufacturers throw all this crapware and junkware all over it. My advice as a technician is to never ever use those recoveries. That's really for your consumer who doesn't really care about how much junkware is on their computer. They don't notice it. They're completely oblivious. For those of us in the know, you're always best off using a clean OEM install. And then any drivers that are missing, go to the manufacturer's website to download those missing drivers. Most of the drivers should happen automatically on Windows 10. And use Windows 10's recovery disks, not the ones designed by the manufacturers. All they're doing is they're taking something that's already been designed to do exactly what the manufacturers are doing, and the manufacturers think they do it better, and they consume a lot of your hard drive space needlessly, and create a lot of confusion ultimately for the end user, who most of the time don't even realize it's there. But that's my opinion. Decide for yourself what you want to do. It's your hard drive space. Is Joshua a good password? No, Joshua is not a good password. A good password would be a phrase. I love my dog Jake. That'd be a good password. I enjoy Carrie Holzman's YouTube videos. Nobody's going to crack that. And especially if you throw a couple of capital letters in there, like the C on Carrie, the H on Holzman, throw an exclamation point at the end. I mean, you almost didn't even have to do that. Once you reach a character limit of about 12 characters, it's pretty hard to crack that today. Now that may change in the future. Anything beyond 12 is even stronger. So that's why we're getting away from using words and instead using phrases. Phrases are easier for a person to remember, and they're much more difficult, if not impossible, for any attacker to crack. Does adding more RAM improve gameplay? There is no one thing that everybody can universally do that can improve all games at all settings and all resolutions and all versions on all operating systems. You add the amount of RAM that's required for your specific configuration, the version of the game you're playing, and the settings on the game that you're playing. There's no single answer other than to figure out what you've got now, what you're playing and how you're playing it, and whether or not any more RAM than what you have now would be beneficial in that particular scenario. I know everybody wants this one answer, but if there was one answer, we'd all just be using Apple computers, and they would dictate to us. The benefit of being in the PC world is that we have the freedom of choice. And not only as a user, but as a developer. You can develop your game to be more CPU intensive, more GPU intensive, more RAM intensive. That's entirely up to the developer, and it can change from one version of the game to the next version. Other than that, you can also have Windows 7, you could have Windows 8, you could have Windows 10. You could have an AMD graphics card or an NVIDIA graphics card, and then depending on the driver of the graphics card. And along with the settings of the game itself. So all of these variables have to be considered, and the only way you're going to find an answer that you're looking for is to go to a forum where there are knowledgeable people discussing the game, or perhaps talking to the game's support team to find out. That's the only way you're going to know, because there's just too many variables for anybody outside of the game developer or really, really involved and knowledgeable about that specific game and version of that game on the operating system that you're running with the video card that you have to know whether or not what the optimal amount of RAM would be. I see John Huckabee and Alusu are also joining us in the chat. They're also moderators. So we have no shortage of moderators today, which is great. In fact, do I still see, is Andre still in there? Andre, I'm looking for Andre Hernandez, if you're in there. I swear I saw him a minute ago. Where did he go? There we go. So we got 4 moderators in here, so the chat should be well behaved, I trust. We've got almost 500 people watching live. Hello world, thank you for watching. We're installing the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. It's just been released today. The link to download it, if you want to hurry up and get it yourself, is in the video notes below the video. And it's taking a while. We are doing this live on right over here on this workstation. This is the Ncase M1 build that I did live a few weeks ago. And it's got what was the latest version of Windows 10 installed on it, and now, and you can see these are Wi-Fi antennas I've got sticking up here. It's downloading the update through my Wi-Fi, and it moved along really fast until it got to about 82%, and now it's been crawling ever since. Well, we're just going to be patient and see how this goes, and in the meantime, I'll do my best to answer your questions, tech-related questions. Hey Carrie, did you and your dad get to build the PC together? Yes. Yes, we did. I am so thrilled. Unfortunately, I'll tell you what happened. I wanted to do this live, and I couldn't because of this fraudulent DMCA strike that was levied against my channel illegally. So I ended up having to record it. But because the shooting had just occurred in Las Vegas, and you know, I guess I'm going to need your guys' opinion on this. Let me tell you, I wanted to get me with the Las Vegas sign, right? Saying, hey, you know, this will be the intro. Hey guys, this is Kerry Holzman. I'm here in Las Vegas. You know, the camera pulls away, and I'm pointing at the Welcome to Las Vegas sign. So my father and I, we drive over to the Las Vegas sign, and traffic is insane. Well, that Welcome to Las Vegas sign is right across the street from Mandalay Bay, where the shootings occurred. At this time, it was the shootings that occurred just, they think the shootings occurred on October 1st, and I think I was out there on October 4th, I think. And just tons of people, and this wonderful memorial was set up. And so we drove around, we found a spot to park, and news crews are there. 58 crosses are lined up along the ground with people's names and photos of those that were lost. And I said, what am I going to do? How am I, and I don't want to start my video off on a down note like that. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this real quick. I'm going to say, hey guys, hi, this is Kerry Holzman. I'm here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I hope you enjoy my latest video. And I'm smiling, right? I'm pointing at a camera and smiling while all these people are mourning. And I'm like, oof, this may not be a good idea. This may seem disrespectful. So I wanted to make sure when we filmed it that we didn't get any of the flowers or any of that stuff that you couldn't tell. There's a part of me that just doesn't sit well. And I know that the news media were giving people a hard time that were taking selfies. They actually interviewed a girl that was taking a selfie, and she had no idea that she was doing anything disrespectful. They said, how do you think people feel about you taking selfies here today? And she goes, well, how other people feel or how I feel? Like, she was totally confused about it. And they're kind of making a big deal about how people are just so disconnected that they're not being respectful to all the lives that were lost, and they're just in their own little world going, hey, look at me with the Las Vegas sign, you know. It was such a hassle to try and get that shot. I hate to throw it away, but I'm thinking it might be the most respectful things to do. I don't know. What do you guys think? The other thing I was thinking was that I would open with that, and then I would close the video out showing the memorial, just in a quiet. But man, I almost feel like it's better to not even talk about it at all. There's nothing about Las Vegas that has anything to do with the build, you know. That's where my father lives. It's irrelevant. If I'm building a computer with my father, it doesn't matter if you know where my father lives. And it was just bad timing, because once we put this in motion, I couldn't stop it. I had parts being shipped to his house. We had a launch window, you know, that was closing. We had to get in and get this done in this little few days time that we had. And all the parts we ordered had to arrive, and they all had to work. And I had to bring all my tools and all my equipment, my streaming computer and all my cables and all my lights and all my batteries and battery chargers. All that had to go out with me. There was no stopping it. The shooter couldn't stop us. In other words, we still had to go out and do it. And I had it locked in my head that I was going to open the video. You know, when I plan this, I'm thinking in my head how I'm going to do it. And I wanted that opening shot with the Las Vegas sign, but I think maybe just cutting it is going to be the best decision. I'm seeing a lot of people thinking that I should cut it. And I was very self-conscious when I was doing it. You know, I don't know how many people were there. A lot of people were there, and they're seeing a guy talking to a camera with a smile, you know, like, hope you enjoy my next video. They can't hear me. It's too loud. My microphone's picking me up just fine. Nobody can hear me, but it's got to look suspicious, right? That's what I was telling my dad. I'm like, we got to do this quick, because I gave him the camera and I told him what I wanted him to do. And we had to do it like 8 times. And nobody said anything, and I don't really think anybody noticed. And there were certainly much more professional news crews, you know, with giant cameras and huge light filters, reflectors. But yeah, I'm probably, the more I think about it, I'm sort of been leaning on removing it. I just went through such a pain to get that filmed. I hate to throw it away, but it may be the right thing to do. I don't mean for it to be insensitive. It's just that was my plan all along, and I didn't want an event to change my plan. That's just stubbornness, is all that is. Yeah, Buzz in the chat room is saying probably best to ditch it. It's in poor taste. It's unfortunate. I think you're right. I think it probably is in poor taste. The very fact that I'm having to think about it should be the only thing I really need to decide, right? Is if I have to think about it. Some people think it's not insensitive. It's if I don't do it at all, there's no debate, right? I can open the video another way. Where are we at? 87%. We're crawling along there. Windows Update is going. Other questions? $4chan for Prez has contributed $5. Don't give up your intro, else the terrorists win. You know what? I can come up with a different intro. I mean, the whole point of doing the Vegas sign is cool, and I can tell you, hey guys, I'm in Alaska. How do you know I'm really there? Unless I show you something like a welcome to Alaska sign, you know? It's just sort of evidence or proof that what I'm showing you is true and honest. But it's irrelevant. It's me building a computer with my dad. That's what it is. And that's what it's about. It's not about Las Vegas. Had the shooter not opened up 3 days before I arrived, it wouldn't have been an issue, and the video would have gone as planned. But now because that happened, and because the Las Vegas sign is right across the street from where the incident occurred, I do think it's insensitive. But it's not malicious. It's not like it was intended to be insensitive. It's just, it was planned long before this happened. It's just a circumstance. But people that watch the video aren't gonna, in today's world, people don't give each other the benefit of the doubt. When I was growing up, and you said something that can be taken one of two ways, people always, mostly, not always, mostly assumed they gave you the benefit of the doubt that you meant it in the good way. Today, the vast majority of people automatically assume any negative part of what you say. Even if what you say is, hi, have a nice day. Well, what do you mean by that? You know, it can be something totally harmless and an everyday thing. People are so narcissistic and self-involved. They think everything's about them. And that's not how I was brought up. I was brought up that the world doesn't owe you anything, and you have to work hard to earn what you have. And the generation of kids that are adults now were brought up differently than me. And that's not their fault, that's their parents' fault. But it's created a generation of people who think that they're important and what they have to say matters. And the fact is, unless you're a politician or in the public eye, nobody, you can have your arguments on Facebook, you can have your arguments on YouTube comments. It's not making a difference in the world. Might make you feel better, but the vast majority of people are not reading what you're writing. They don't know who you are and they don't care any more than you care about them. So it's this weird psychological thing happening in America right now with this sort of narcissistic, and so what I'm afraid of is is by posting that, me in front of the Las Vegas sign, that this generation of trying to think of a nice way to say it. It's a different generation. It's a different attitude, and they can twist anything into evil, and they go out of their way to do it. So I just don't need that headache. I don't need it. I know what my intent. Nobody can tell me what my intention is. The very fact that anybody thinks they can is preposterous to me. You can't tell me what I mean. And if you think you can, you need psychological help. But, how do you give psychological help to an entire generation that were raised that way? So, yeah, that's my situation. Someone's calling it self-entitlement. There's a lot of words for it, and I hate for it to sound so negative. I don't mean to put down a whole generation. That's how they were raised, That's all they know. And they, I imagine, feel bad for my generation or my father's generation, who in their eyes lived harder lives than they do. And we feel bad for them because they don't know a world without the internet. They don't know a world of socialization in a non-virtual way, mostly. They don't know a world of earning things. They mostly, got participation trophies, and they were told it didn't matter if they won or lost, and that made why should you bother winning? If you're going to get the same thing, the motivation to win is just, who cares? But that's my generation, or the parents who raised them. So who do I got to be mad about? But anyway, regardless of that, it's just that is the state of our culture currently, and I'm just predicting that by posting that, it will be like poking an angry bear with a stick. All right, looks like it wants to do a reboot to start the install. So let me grab the keyboard and mouse from over here, and let's plug it in. Like I said, I'm intentionally using this one keyboard and mouse because when I have two, I keep using the wrong one. So by forcing me to switch it out, I don't have that confusion. Let's see. I'm doing this on a delay, which is driving me crazy. I've got to bring up my other screen because I move the mouse, and then 4 seconds later on the screen I see the mouse move. All right. That's the only downside, is I got to plan this better. All right, here we go. Restart now. You're about to be signed out. Okay, well, that's probably why I clicked restart now. My screen, so you have to understand, I'm looking at this other computer on a screen within my screen. It's about this big, the whole desktop. So all the text is really, really tiny and difficult to read. So I couldn't quite read what it said there, and I was wondering what the delay was, but it looks like we're going through the process right now of the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. It is finally downloaded and expanded the files. That's what we just witnessed. And now it is beginning the process. So for those of you watching the video, this is what you can expect, and this is about the amount of time you can expect this entire process to take. Some folks in the chat room are saying that they've done this update and that it works. They had some network issues, and it has updates for itself. I don't know what that means. Okay. Just get a kid to read the stuff for you. I don't actually know that anybody could read it. Or I could break out my glasses. That's what's good about having a young kid around though, especially when you get older. You can hand them things like the menu or the bill and go, how much is that? I can't see it. Don't worry, it happens to everybody after age 40. So if you're not there yet and you live long enough, you'll get there. The update has additional updates once it's done. Are you kidding me? That's insane. The whole point of this update is to combine all the previous updates. It's like I say, it's like a service pack. It's not really worth going out of my way to get this update. What do you get out of it? Well, you can go to Google and you can type in what are the features and benefits of the Creators Update, the Fall Creators Update, versus the Spring Creators Update, and see if anything in there is something you'd be interested in. If not, you will get it eventually automatically. But you don't have to run out and get it. This is just for people who like to be first, and it's free. Have you tinkered with the virtual reality in the Windows Fall Creators? I haven't even seen the Windows Fall Creators Update. This is the first time you and I are experiencing this together for the first time. I don't mess around with beta software. I don't have time for it. And I don't work for Microsoft for free. If they want me to beta test their software, they can pay me for it. Other questions you guys have? We're still waiting. If you don't get the update to the Creators Update, you can't get updates, right? I'm sure that's the way it goes. What'll happen is when you go to check for updates, the only update you'll have available to you when Microsoft deems it's ready to provide it will be the Creators Update. And it will, the Fall Creators Update will continually be offered to you. That's it, just the Fall Creators Update. So yes, Windows Update still works, but you're only going to have one update. And that'll be the Fall Creators Update. And until you get that, that's the only update that'll be available to you. Peter says, love your PC building and maintenance videos. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the kind words. I do appreciate that. Some smartphones have a magnifying glass built in. Yeah, well, you can just turn the camera on in the smartphone and pinch it to zoom in, and then there's your magnifying glass. I mean, that's not rocket science. What's the status of your new computer? If you're talking about the Xenos build, it's still in production. I have filmed the intro to that Xenos build about 17 times, and I have destroyed everything I filmed. I've thrown it away. None of it's good enough. I'm working on trying to get somebody to come over and operate a camera for me. I've had several people say they were going to do it, and nobody has followed through, and I keep trying to do it without a camera operator, and it just looks too amateurish. I'm just not happy with the results. Adobe Flash and Windows Defender are included. That's interesting. Gothic G-Man says, hi from Scotland. Do you ever use a touchscreen monitor? My laptop has a touchscreen. Windows XP user says, hi from Estonia. And Ninja Mason says, hey, Carrie. And Michael Kelly says, hello from Iowa. Speed Israel says, hello from Israel. Shalom. Pay me the fare to come over to be your cameraman. Well, when YouTube pays me enough to do that, I'd be happy to. Right now, YouTube pays me about 1/3 of what it costs me to make the videos My monthly expense to make these videos is 3 times what YouTube pays me every month. So, you know, unless I do things like Q&A sessions and things that don't cost me any money, like this isn't costing me any money to do this update live, then that's all profit. But when I'm doing builds and things like that, where there's lots of parts involved and When I did the build with my father, I had to buy a dual microphone, basically a wireless mic that's equivalent to what I'm wearing, but it's got 2 transmitters and 1 receiver. That was $400, and that was cheap. Lance McKay says, hello from Michigan. Peter Isaacson says, greetings from Sweden. And Dario Rallen says, hello from Argentina. Karen Shindy says, hello from India. Stream live to Twitch. I haven't figured out a way to monetize Twitch yet. I've still been playing with it, but it's on my radar. Carrie, have you ever been to Augusta, Georgia? I've been to Atlanta. Does that count? Home of Coca-Cola. Greetings from Denmark. That's from Jasper Anderson. Robbie Holbert says hello from Laurel, Montana. And Randy Reed says hello from Ohio. Can I have the Fall Creators Update ISO, please? Yes, Ruben, it is. The link is in the video notes below the video. And everybody can have it, not just you. The entire world can have it. That's what it's there for. Fam says hello from Egypt. Jaden Hudson says hello from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. Joe Ebner says hello from Philadelphia. Darius Littlejohn says greetings from Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. Bell 1337 says hello from Sweden. Geek of Gaming says greetings from Wales. I have a funny story I have to share with you guys. I'm getting off the freeway, and I'm going to Walmart. And I see this guy on a bicycle, and he's driving his bicycle with traffic. Now here in Phoenix, bicyclists just do whatever the heck they want, and then they cry victim when they get hit, when they're violating. Basically, in the United States, when you ride a bicycle, you are to follow the same rules of the road as a car. But what will happen is they'll be riding their bicycles on the sidewalk. Okay, that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is a bicycle traveling in the opposite direction of traffic. So let's say you're in your car, and in this case, I'm getting off the freeway, and I can only make a right turn. So I'm looking this way for oncoming traffic to clear, so that I can then say, okay, there's no cars coming, I can continue my turn this way. When a bicyclist is going the wrong direction in traffic and pulls out in front of a car, and the driver is making a right turn, which means the driver is looking to the left. So the driver says, okay, everything's clear. They put their foot on the gas and turn their head, and there's a bicyclist in front of them, and they hit them. They're not hitting them fast, but it's shocking for everybody. You're going to knock the person over, probably going to get some scrapes and bruises. You're not probably going to run them over with the car unless you just stomped on the gas. I don't know why you would do that. And then they go, oh, you should have looked where you were going. And you're like, well, you should follow the rules of the road. You're the one at fault. No, you're the one at fault. And it's a big, this is Phoenix. So I see this guy, and first thing I notice, he's riding in the road with traffic. He's off to the side so cars can pass him. And I'm watching him, because to me this is fascinating. Oh, I think everything just rebooted. Yep, okay. So continue with my story. I then see he puts his hand out, and he moves 2 lanes into traffic over into the left-hand turn lane to turn into Walmart. He's in the lane with the cars. And he sees oncoming cars, and he points like this with his hand, this means I'm going to make a left turn, if you know your hand signals. This is a right, this is a left, this is I'm slowing down. I remember all this stuff from the 80s when I used to ride a bicycle. So he signals like he's supposed to, just like a car, waits for oncoming traffic to clear. He completes his turn into the Walmart parking lot, and that's where I'm going. So I'm watching this happen, and I park my car, and I see the guy locking his bike up, and I said to the guy, I have to tell you something. In 20 years, more than 20 years of driving in the streets of Phoenix, I have never before seen a bicyclist follow the rules of the road. And I just had to tell you how impressed I was. And I wish there were more bicyclists like you. And this guy was probably in his late 30s, early 40s. And he starts talking to me with an accent. But that figures, he's not American. Turns out he's from Wales. And of course, cycling in England there's a big thing between drivers and cyclists in England. But here, he's basically telling me they were taught the proper way to ride a bicycle in Wales. And I'm just like, I said, no American in America rides their bike according to the law. It takes somebody from somewhere else to follow the American laws. And that figures. And then we talked about Wales a little bit. I said, is everybody in Wales, I've heard they can all sing. Is that true? But it was just a fun conversation. It was neat. All right, we're at 16% on the update process. You did see that this is the second reboot that it encountered, and I'm not touching anything. It's just running on its own. And this is the best bet when you're doing these Windows updates or any updates, is to leave it alone and let it run. Milligram wants to know, well, what's the end of the story? Can people in Wales sing? Yes. Yes, they can. Next time you go to Wales, ask any stranger to sing. They all have wonderful singing voices. I've never been to Wales, but everybody I've met from Wales can all sing. What he told me when I said that was they have amazing choirs. Well, of course, people can sing or in choirs, but I think they all can sing. And it's kind of a joke, but the truth is, a lot of Welsh people have very good singing voices. I don't know what's up with that. Breckner Christian says, hi from Romania. What capture card are you using? I'm using two different capture cards. For this one, the one I'm waving in, that is a StarTech internal PCI Express capture card. And then the computer is plugged into a Magewell clone, a Magewell USB 3 clone called Hi-Alien, H-I-Alien. And it appears to be the exact same product in every way, shape, and form as the Magewell. But instead of $299, it's $129. And in fact, I bought two of them. So right now I have 4 capture cards. But what I want, Magewell makes an internal PCI Express quad HDMI capture card, but it's $900. But that would solve all my problems, because then I could have my 3 cameras set up. Right, I could have a left, middle, and a right, or I could do wide, close up, and then one angle. And then with the 4th one, I can run the video out of a computer, like what I'm doing now, and not have any USB adapters. It'd be much cleaner cabling, and probably would be less likely to have driver issues, which is why I think I'm getting the random blue screens. And knock on wood, we haven't had any since I've been live. So far, everything's running perfectly. You should do live streams in 16K. Yeah, so you guys can watch it on your smartphones. That just doesn't make any sense. Although it would be interesting if you get a 6-cam setup and you can make a 360 and you guys could move all around my kitchen. I might encounter that. I might conquer that one day, but you need 6 cameras. So here we're on our, what is that, the 3rd reboot? It's done now, and it's continuing the install. IMAX Carry Theater. Sounds frightening. Nobody wants to see me that big. I don't even want to see myself that big. Better make sure nothing's in my nose or stuck in my teeth. If only we could get food from your kitchen. The food in my kitchen's all junk. It's potato chips and Doritos and Cheez-Its and walnuts and cashew. Well, walnuts and cashews aren't too terrible. As long as we don't have to wear 3D glasses. Oh, that's coming. It's coming. Don't worry about it. So if you're just joining us right now, we're installing the Windows Fall Creators Update on this computer I've got right here. This is the Ncase M1. I built this live a couple of weeks ago, and it's mostly just been sitting on the floor of my office since then, so I blew the dust off of it, fired it up, went to Windows Update. Windows Update says there's no updates available. So then I went to the website that's in the video links, in the notes rather, of this video description, and then said I want to manually upgrade now. And then it downloaded the update and decompressed it, and now it's installing it on top of the prior version of Windows 10, which is probably what you have watching this if you're running Windows 10, which was build 1703. The current build is 1709, and you can Google the difference between the updates. There's far too much for me to list. If I tell you the difference between the updates, we'll be here till tomorrow. So you'll need to go use Google, and then you can look at what the updates are. There's a lot of security updates, it's basically a service pack, and they add some new features in there. So you go and check that out. Everybody will get it eventually, but if you want it now, you can grab it now. It really is irrelevant what features it has or what updates. It doesn't really matter. You're going to get it anyway. If you've got Windows 10, Microsoft will push it down on your computer once the taxing on their servers has been reduced. They ration it out to every computer that's running Windows 10 around the world. And so it may take a couple of months before some people will get it automatically, but everybody will get it automatically, whether you like it or not. Hartham says, hello from Saudi Arabia. Jay Toy says, they're doing the update right along with me. They're halfway done. Yeah, we're at 55%. Sounds like you're following right along. This could take an hour to finish. Who knows? It depends on the speed of the computer, the speed of your internet, the speed of your hard drive, how much RAM you've got installed. There's a lot of factors. But yes, this is a very large update. This is nothing tiny. This will take a while. Kerry, are you contemplating moving back to Michigan? Yes, I've been trying to get back to Michigan for a few years now. There are some financial things that are blocking, not blocking me, they're obstacles, and I have to figure out how to get around them. So it won't happen anytime this year. It might not happen anytime next year. Maybe by 2020. We'll see. I mean, unless something major happens, some breakthrough happens, I do want to eventually get back there. I just don't know when I can do it. I may end up just renting a place there for a few months too. That could happen next year. We'll see. What's the reason for Michigan? I'm originally from Michigan, and the people in Phoenix, everybody lives in a bubble. Everybody's very rude. They can't bother. A lot of people just can't be bothered to learn English. They force you to either speak Spanish or you can't communicate. That was never really a problem in Michigan. It's rampant here. There's a lot of culture differences in Phoenix than in Michigan. And when I go back to Michigan, as I've been, I think the last time I was there was in 2012, and I was also there in 2011. I have no real way other than to describe that it feels like home. It's nice to see trees again. It's nice to feel weather again. Arizona has one temperature. It's hot, and it's hot all year. We have cactuses. We have palm trees. We don't have oaks. We don't have maple. We don't have any of that. We don't have any seasons. It's just one season all year. I miss the snow. I miss the rain. I miss the clouds. I miss the weather. I miss the seasons. I miss the people being kind to each other. I miss green grass. I miss trees canopying streets. I miss clean oxygen that's being created by trees. Where's the trees in Arizona? In Phoenix anyway, there's not many. So it's mostly what you're breathing is car emissions and factory emissions. Never saw a rattlesnake in Michigan. Never saw a scorpion in Michigan. Never seen a squirrel in Phoenix. It's just how I was raised. It's what I know and what I'm comfortable with, and I'd like to get back there. Ron Coker says he's from Illinois. Yeah, you know what? Chicago, man, Chicago's so friendly, so friendly, but too expensive. Black widow spiders. Yeah, we have black widow spiders in Phoenix and brown recluse. Michigan's a beautiful state. It's absolutely gorgeous. And, you know, with Detroit kind of bouncing back, it's trying to become a second Silicon Valley, which is perfect for a guy like me. I also believe it's about 15% cheaper to live in Michigan. But even if Michigan costs 50 times more, I'd still want to move back there. Getting cold up here in Michigan. It's almost 90 degrees. I think it's over 90 degrees today. We were 1 degree shy of hitting 100 degrees yesterday. I'm done. I'm sick of it. I would much rather be where it's cold. You know, where it's cold, you can always put more clothes on. But when it's hot, you can only take so many clothes off. And I'll tell you what really bothers me. Maybe somebody in the chat room can tell me what's going on. I'm starting to see people walking around in 100-degree weather in the summertime, 110, 115 degrees, wearing a hoodie, like a sweatshirt and a hoodie, a jacket. And that's very suspicious to me, because that generally suggests to me that you're trying to shoplift. But they're not, you know, I don't see them in the stores. I see them walking up and down the street in 115-degree weather with a hoodie and a jacket on. I don't just see it once in a while. I see it all the time, and it's usually younger kids. Why? Does that make any sense? Can anybody explain that? This is what happens when you get older. You start seeing these things that have nothing to do with you, but they piss you off. You're like, what's wrong with these people? It's suspicious. Something's going on. It's about 45 to 50 degrees Celsius here in Saudi Arabia, and it's okay for me. You know, if you were raised in it, I was raised in Michigan, so that's what sets my expectations, is how I was raised. Aaron says, I love the heat. The hotter, the better. Yeah, well, I don't. I like the cold. The colder, the better. It can get as cold as it wants. I love the cold. I'd rather be standing in front of a fireplace than an air conditioner. Which one is more romantic? Come on, honey. Let's lay down on the cold tile floor in front of the air conditioner and drink a glass of warm wine. Who says chivalry is dead? It's 67 degrees Fahrenheit in Upper Michigan, and it's so nice. Yeah, rub it in. Rub it in. Try living in England. It's always cold. I've never been to England. I do want to go. I know it's going to be rainy and overcast, which sounds a lot like Oregon. Where are we at? We're almost done. We're at 98. Is that 98%? Looks like 98%. How long has this been going? We've been on an hour and a half since we start. Well, I didn't start right away there, did I? Maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. So a little over an hour so far. Is this update worth it? Well, do you want your identity stolen? What's your identity worth? You're going to get the update whether it's worth it or not. It's a forced update. The only question is whether you want to wait till it's forced or you want to grab it yourself now. It's not really an option. All right, here we go. We're rebooting. It's saying hello. Oh boy, we've got some updates for your PC. All right, well, it's not done yet. Any other tech questions I can answer for you guys in the chat while we're waiting? If you're just joining us, we're installing the Windows 10 Fall Creators Update. That was released officially today, and we're doing an upgrade to the previous version of Windows 10 that was on this machine right over here. And we're just running a video capture card. That's how you're seeing me and how you're seeing the desktop over here. And 2 different video capture cards there. And we've been doing this for about an hour and a half. This machine, when I built it, did have an SSD. I pulled the SSD out and put a mechanical drive in it. So it's not running as fast as it did. I just thought, you know, a Core i3 doesn't deserve an SSD. Didn't make any sense. And again, once I built it, it's just been sitting on the floor of my office. It doesn't have a job. So that's what's going on right now, and this is all live, unscripted, and real. And we're going through the update process. Win, lose, or draw, what happens, happens. We'll see if we're successful, if the update works properly, or if we're going to have any errors, blue screens, or unexpected problems. And of course, assuming everything goes well, or doesn't, you know what to expect if you want to begin this update process yourself. This is a forced update. It is a required update, and it will be distributed to everybody on the planet that's running Windows 10 eventually. It just came out today, and with hundreds of millions of Windows 10 PCs out there, Windows servers have to ration out who gets the update when. So some people may not receive the update for a couple of months, and other people will receive it right away. Depending on how Microsoft determines that, I don't know. But if you want to force it, you can certainly force it using the link in the video notes below this video, and you can download the ISO image to create a new install media if you just want to do a fresh install, or you can do what I'm doing and do the upgrade from your current version of Windows 10. It says let's start, so it looks like the update is done. It says welcome to the Fall Creators Update, and let's take a look at what we've got. Here you can learn all about the Windows 10 update, which I don't really care. I'm going to right click on this PC and go to Properties. This is going to give us the details of this machine. All right, so there you can see the RAM we've got installed. We make sure that Windows is activated. And then if we want to know what version of Windows, we can just right down here and just type in WinVer and hit enter. And this tells us about the version of Windows 10 we've got installed. Don't worry, there's no product keys displayed. There's no information that's useful to anybody. And show that we're running, should show that we're running 1709, which would be September of 2017. I don't know why it's not called 1710, since technically it's October. But I'm guessing it's because they finalized the code in September, and that's why it's got that number. And then they released it in October, I'm guessing. You know, why does Microsoft do the things Microsoft does? Who knows? So it was relatively painless. I will throw some links into the video notes for people who are too lazy to use Google. That will tell them the differences with the new update, but it doesn't really matter because it's a required update. So it's not like you have a choice, but it will explain, like a lot of the PC World Magazine, Maximum PC, all of the news-related, tech news-related websites are covering this, some in more detail than others. Tom's Hardware, Anantech. They will all have stories about either certain features or the entirety. Paul Thoreau's Windows page, I'm sure, will cover it in a lot of detail. It is a massive update. It's 4.5 gigs. I do recommend that you download, if nothing else, take the time to use the link below the video to download the ISO image so that you can recreate your installation media, because you don't want to install any version of Windows 10 older than this, or you will have to sit through this upgrade. Or you'll go to sleep one night and your computer is going to grab it automatically, and you're going to wake up in the morning and already have it, whether you liked it or not. So that's the process. It's there for your security and your convenience. And if you don't like it, you need to switch off of Windows. So that's the process today. And this is just the final opportunity. Mike Smith and I are doing a Tech Vet show tonight. So for those of you who are curious, Mike Smith, who's in Philadelphia, of course I'm in Phoenix, we both run computer repair businesses. Mike tends to deal with larger corporations, and I tend to deal with small home-based businesses or, companies that have 10 or less employees are my specialty. I don't do any server stuff. I don't do any HIPAA or FINRA type stuff. I don't do Active Directory or SQL servers, SQL, whatever you want to call it. I don't do any of that. Mike does that. And we've been doing the Tech Vets podcast now for, I don't know, I think it's 10 years. I don't know how long it's been. But we've only done one this year. It's been so hard for us to find time to get together that it's really been difficult to coordinate. So finally, we've got a lot to catch up on tonight. At 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, we'll be going, I think we're going live on Mike's Ustream channel. And you can follow the links on Mike's page on Facebook as well as my Facebook page. And we're going to be talking about what's been going on in the business. So Mike has some news about losing a client that isn't anything he did. It's just, one company buys another company. Changes happen. And this is why when you're self-employed, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. And we're going to talk a bit about that, what happened. We'll probably mention that this Creators Update has come out. And there'll be no shortage of things to talk about. So Tech Vets is short for Veterans of Technology because Mike and I started this when PCs started being used in businesses for the most part. Not computers, PCs. So Mike and I have each more than 25 years of experience. So together, over 50 years of experience. And it's very different. It's very different. What Mike thinks is a good idea is different from what I think is a good idea. And neither one of us are wrong. But it's very much like an odd couple. Two different personalities, two different approaches, two different ways. And I think it's really good for the listener. I find it fascinating to hear how somebody else has a completely different perspective. I think Mike feels the same way. And we enjoy it. We really get a kick out of it. And we learn from each other. And hopefully you guys will too. And oftentimes we learn from our audience when they share their experiences. It's one of the things I really like about this business is it enables you to be who you want to be and do things the way you want to do it. Because ultimately, all that matters is that your customer's happy. And how you go about doing that's your business. And if you do it wrong, it's your problem. It's nobody else's problem. It's between you and your customer. So don't let anybody ever tell you how to do it. You take advice, use it or don't use it, or change it a little to make it fit your style, your personality. That's the beauty of being in this line of work. And it has its challenges, but not the least of which is people telling you how to do your job. But you don't have to listen to those people. And you shouldn't. It's like listening to somebody who's fatter than you give you diet advice, Don't do it. So anyway, Tech Vets is tech-vets.com. It'll be on Mike's Ustream channel. You can go to tech-vets.com for more information about that, or on the Facebook page. And I hope you guys will tune in and check it out. It's all about running a computer repair business. We share stories of contracts and difficult customers and challenging problems, technical problems, educational problems with the customers, getting paid, sending out bills, having to collect, deciding what to charge, dealing with taxes, dealing with marketing, joining groups, social groups like BNI and Chamber of Commerce and ways to expand business, education, laws, specialty laws for certain industries, such as the FINRA laws for financial institutions, the HIPAA laws for medical institutions, hospitals, dentists, lawyers, backups, encryption, viruses, everything that it takes to run the business, we cover that. And everything that we've done so far, you can go and listen to at your convenience anytime you want, 24/7, 7 days a week. All the past shows we've done are still available as audio broadcasts and on demand. You can download these MP3 files, put them in your car, listen to them in your car. It's great, especially when I was going to Vegas. It's a 4 hour and 20-minute drive. It's a great time to get caught up on these podcasts. It beats listening to the radio or when you're in the middle of the desert listening to static. And a lot of what we talk about in past episodes, going all the way to show number 1, still holds true today. So I want to make you guys aware of that. Some people have been asking about if Ccleaner is safe to use because they got hacked. I've talked about this before. By the time Ccleaner announced the hack, it was already cleaned. You guys are getting the information after the fact. Ccleaner is completely safe to use. I still recommend it. You really don't need to use the registry cleaning part of Ccleaner, but to use the temp file cleaning or the wipe, the scrub the hard drive space that's free, to securely scrub it from any data recovery, that's a great feature. The uninstall stuff is great. A lot of the utilities on Ccleaner are great. And the hack that Ccleaner had didn't affect individuals. It was targeting 5 other tech companies. Had nothing to do with you or me. So, but people, they get the news media. The news media scares you. And then you guys overreact. And you got to get all the information. And if you just don't want to use it, then don't use it. You don't need Ccleaner. Nobody needs it. But it's safe to use if you want to use it. And as I've always said, always use the portable version. I've got a video demonstrating how I use Ccleaner from like 5 years ago, and for the most part, it's the same exact process, so nothing's really changed. Is Ccleaner safe for SSDs? Why wouldn't it be? Sometimes people ask some really bizarre questions. Can I use Ccleaner if I'm on a diet? I don't care. Can I use Ccleaner on a Wednesday? Why can't you? Can I use Ccleaner on an AMD? I don't understand why you think you can't. So basically, if there was a reason why you couldn't have used Ccleaner, don't you think I would have told you? All right, guys, I think this is going to... Look, I don't want to discourage questions, but I'd like to understand the question better. Unless I'm just not understanding the question, I don't know why. I don't know if it's a joke, if it's like somebody's playing a joke, or if they're serious, then they need to explain to me why they think there's a difference. Because I'm not yet. I don't mean to be rude. I really don't. But I'm just sort of confused. I thought an SSD has a short lifespan compared to a hard drive. No, an SSD has about 5 times the lifespan of a hard drive. And in fact, I covered this in great detail on an SSD video, and further pointed you guys to another independent SSD video that explains this in even more detail. So there's no reason for you to have incorrect information. If you watch the videos on my channel, that's why they're there, so you don't have to be wondering these bizarre things based on little tidbits of information you caught from, you probably don't even know where you read it from. You might have caught it on a Reddit forum, or you might have caught a piece of somebody saying something. So I strongly encourage you to use YouTube. Click on my name. Below this video, you'll see my name. And if you click on my name, at the top it'll say videos. Click on videos and it'll show you 300 videos I've done, sorted by the date that I uploaded them. The newest one soon, will be first. And look through those titles and see if any of those titles are of interest to you. It's completely free. It'll cost you nothing. And so you don't have to remain in the dark. Carrie, does this update address the recent Wi-Fi WPA2 vulnerability issue? The update was already in place before the vulnerability. You guys have to understand, people aren't just willy-nilly coming out and announcing vulnerabilities. They are working with companies to say, you have a problem here, and you need to fix it. And then the companies like Microsoft say, okay, we'll have it fixed by this date. And then after that, you can go public with it. But please give us an opportunity to fix it before you go public with it. When you guys read about these vulnerabilities, they've already been patched. Microsoft patched this on October 10th. So if you have your latest Windows updates, and you should unless you did something foolish like disabling your Windows updates, which some people think they're smart and they do that, and they're the exact opposite of smart if you do that. When Windows, on the second Tuesday of the month, Patch Tuesday, Microsoft released an update that fixed the WPA2. They didn't tell you anything about it because they were waiting for the official news release to get released. Then the news release comes out and everybody freaks out. The sky is falling. No, it's already been taken care of. Windows updates already took care of it. Apple updates already took care of it. Only older unsupported devices, for the most part, or specialty devices in like corporations and things like that, they're the ones who have to worry. But you and I, we don't need to worry. Running Windows 10, you already got the update. The Fall Creators Update contains all of the previous updates automatically. So the answer to your question is yes. The Fall Creators Update includes the patch from the previous version of Windows 10 that fixed the WPA2 vulnerability. But again, most of the time, when you hear about a vulnerability in the news about Windows or whatever it is, it's already been patched. In fact, a lot of times what happens on the news is you hear stories of vulnerabilities. Let's use Equifax. The patch that prevented that was released months before the Equifax hack took place. And if Equifax had installed the patch, there would have been no breach. This is why Microsoft turns on automatic updates and forces them on you. And this is why when you think you're smarter than Microsoft and you disable that, then you remain unpatched, and then you become a vulnerable, you become vulnerable to the exploited fixes. And again, it has nothing to do with executable files. This has to do with inner workings of Windows services. It has to do with the way the internet works. And this will go on for eternity. This will never stop. And the way that the internet's developed, as we fix things, we create new opportunities for people to use their imagination how to break in. And when they do it, we have to fix that. And around the wheel goes. This is the process. And running old hardware on an internet that's always evolving, on old hardware that isn't, is a recipe for disaster. Turning off updates because you think you're smarter than Microsoft? Don't come crying to me. When it all comes crashing down, it was your fault. So don't freak out when you hear about these stories. They're really, the news media is really good at scaring you. That's how they make you click on the link, and that's how they get paid. So if you've got an older Android phone, maybe something to be concerned about. But if you're a Windows 10 user, with or without the Creators Update, the Fall Creators Update, as long as you're left automatic updates on and you've got the latest updates, nothing to worry about. So, this vulnerability existed for some time, and when you didn't know about it, you were happy. Now you know about it, and now you're overly concerned, but it's already been taken care of. Hence the expression, ignorance is bliss, and sometimes having too much information without the education to process it results in a mob-like mentality of insanity. So I really like to see people be calm and process the information in a logical way before just making an assumption that the sky is falling. I don't know that I'm going to be able to change this culture of fear that the people seem to thrive on, but I really hope that all of you viewing, when you read something like that in the future, your first assumption should be this should have already been patched before it was announced on the news. And if you hear about a security breach, whether it's at Sonic restaurants or TJ Maxx or Home Depot or Lowe's or Wendy's, the IRS, Equifax, then you have to assume that a patch came out that was not applied. That's what your assumption should be. And 99.9% of the times, your assumption will be right. But if you take the assumption that the reason they got hacked was because of an exploit that wasn't patched, you're going to be wrong 99.99% of the time. You're going to be needlessly worried and have anxiety for no reason for something that's completely out of your control. And if you take the time to actually research and make your anxiety justified, you'll find that the patch was already issued, and these companies in almost every single case failed to apply the patches, and that's why you keep your automatic updates turned on. All right, so enough of my soapbox. Any final questions? We're going to wrap this up. We're going on 2 hours here. I just want to give you guys an opportunity. If you have any questions, you'll see we've got a successful update to the Fall Creators Update that was released today, October 17th, 2017. And this is the N1 case that we built a couple weeks back. We just put Windows 10 1709 on top of the previous version of Windows 10, which was 1703, and it worked flawlessly. It took about an hour and a half to complete. You can expect about the same, just depends on a lot of factors, your internet speed, speed of your computer, how much RAM you have, how big of a hard drive, what type of a hard drive. So it's going to vary for everybody, but plan for about an hour and a half. Probably should plan for 2 or 3 hours. Hope for the best, expect the worst. Where did you get the Windows 10 update tool? I didn't get an update tool. I clicked on the Windows 10. When you go to the link if you go to the link in the video notes in Windows 10 using Internet Explorer or Microsoft Edge, there's a button that says Update Now. That's all I did. You can go back. This video will be made available for you to watch. Once I end the live stream, YouTube will process it, and you go back and rewatch and repeat what I did. All right, any other last final questions here, guys? Last opportunity, or we're going to wrap it up. I am working on the editing for the video of me and my father building the computer. It's been very difficult for me to edit it. There's been a number of technical issues I've had to work around, and there were a number of edits that I was unsure about. I've been sending it to a friend of mine and having my friend look at it, and I've had to undo some of the things I've done. It's funny to me. It's like an author. You know, an author like J.K. Rowling can spend 1.5 years writing Harry Potter, and you guys read the book in 1.5 hours and go, when's the next book? This video will probably be 1.5 hours long, and I've spent 5 days editing it so far, and I'm up to 15 minutes in the editing. And I think that's not right because, as I mentioned before, I've got me talking, introducing the video with me in front of the Las Vegas sign. And I think I'm going to pull that and change the intro and move it. So things like this, they're extraordinarily time-consuming. Editing, this is why I wanted to go live. Because with editing, this perfectionism takes over. And you can just keep moving and altering, and it's like, was this good enough yet? And the more important the video project is for me, the longer it stays in this loop of me getting stuck in perfection, and then the thing never comes out. So that'll be the next build you'll see, was me and my dad working together on a build. I think, unless something happens where I've got a live build that I can do without any editing, well, that other video's in editing, I could do a live build. But there's nothing right now I've got going on immediately for a live build. I do have 2 builds that I'm in discussion with customers. We're still talking about parts. And then there's a potential third and fourth customers that are talking about building, but until they pay me, they can talk all day long. I'm not really... The process of wanting me to build a computer for you involves making a payment. Once you make that payment, then I'm yours, and we talk and we work it out. The guy that I'm working with now, we were on the phone for about 3 or 4 hours. I think about 3 hours last night, and about 3 hours prior. We're spending a lot of time because it's a pretty complicated build for the way he wants to use it. I want to make sure that it all gets done right. And so, you know, when you consider what he's paid for my time, he's paying me about less than minimum wage for my time when we're all done here. But that's not important. What's important to me is I have a happy customer and that you know, that he's going to be happy with the product and feel he got a good value for the money. Some customers' builds are very simple, and other customers have needs that are, you know, between budgetary needs and usage needs. Sometimes they want to use the computer for two things, but when you configure the computer for this one thing, it won't do the other thing as well, and it could interfere with the ability of it actually doesn't do either thing as well. That's the potential. So we're working on that. Customers got to decide what's more important and understand the risks of trying to make a computer that does these two things. You want to do music production and you want to do gaming. Oftentimes, the gaming style hardware can interfere with the computer's processing, the digital audio processing of recording in a live studio that can cause glitches or artifacting in the audio. It gets really sort of hairy. So anyway, that's coming up. That may be a live build when it's ready to go. I don't know yet. We don't even have parts ordered for that. I do know that build is featuring a BitPhoenix Shogun case, big case. So I've already got the case. That's the only part we've got. But we have to know what parts are going to fit in the case. So the case is always the first part that we decide on. So that's done. We just have to figure out the rest of the parts. The other customer, kind of in the same scenario, built the machine for this customer in 2013. He says it's the best computer he's ever had, and he wants another one. But what he's saying is he plays like World of Warcraft and Diablo 3, and he streams it on Twitch. And he says when you get like 20 other players on the screen at the same time while he's streaming, it all just starts to become difficult. You know, the computers. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the computer. I honestly believe it's either a WoW server issue, because this computer I built, I didn't make a video on it, but it's like a 4770K, 16 gigs of RAM, GTX 980, you know, whatever was top of the line back in 2013. It should still be doing really well today. We talked about maybe offloading the streaming to a different computer. He doesn't want to go Threadripper. He wants an Intel chip. Having more cores, you know, with a Coffee Lake would certainly benefit him. But I honestly think, you know, when you got 20 people all on the screen at the same time, I think it's WoW servers. You guys want to give me your feedback on that? I'd love to hear what you've got to say about that. He's ready to drop about $2,500 on a GTX 1080 with a Coffee Lake i7 8700K liquid cooler. I'm not confident it's going to solve anything for him. So these are why these builds aren't happening yet. All of this has to be decided. And it's really important that the customers have the right expectations. I'm not going to tell the customer, oh yeah, this is going to solve all your problems, and then turn around and he's right back to square one again after spending all this money. He needs to know the risk he's taking, and if it doesn't make any difference, that he's going to be okay with it. Because I can't guarantee that this is going to, I just think what he's got should do it just fine. Don't you? I don't know. Be interested in your comments in the video below. Thank you again for watching. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this live Windows 10 upgrade video that shows the real process in real time, no edits. Thank you for watching. I'll see y'all again very, very soon. Until then, bye for now.